So what's the best way to become a millionaire in 4 years or less, no matter where you start? Like, even if you're on an average income, even if you don't have much in savings, is there a blueprint that we can break down and give to you that you can use to predictably make your first million within that first 4 years? And after doing a bit of research and experimentation, the answer is surprisingly yes, there is. And we're going to share that with you right here on this video right now. So if you're excited for that, let's get started and dive right in. Now, a bit of a disclaimer first. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not licensed to give any advice. So please take everything I say with a grain of salt. It is educational only and intended as a guide. But if you ask me, is this blueprint proven? Well, the answer is yes. I've seen so many multimillionaires make their first million and continue to grow their wealth using the same principles. I personally have become a millionaire and I'm projected to hit about $10 million this year by just repeating the same blueprint over and over again. Now, for me to share this with you, the reason why I want to share it with you is because the traditional way of building your wealth, or at least the one that we've been taught, doesn't really work anymore. It used to be that you could work a job paying a decent salary, and you could use some of that salary to buy an asset, like a house as an example, and that asset would predictably double every 7 to 10 years. But these days, especially after COVID-19, it's shown everybody that assets don't perform the way they used to anymore, not as predictably, right? And so we needed a better way. Now, for me to share with you these principles and the blueprint, I want to split it into two parts. The first is the theory part. I need to show you the reason why this blueprint will work no matter what economic cycle or condition we are in, right? So that you can use it forever and ever. And then the second part is then going to the practical side. And once you know the theory, it's just showing you what practical stuff can you do right now so that you can start building your wealth, hitting your first million, starting from today after watching this video, right? So let's dive straight into it. Let's go into the theory part. The first part is understanding the quickest way to hit your first million. Is your quickest way to $1 million by saving your way to $1 million, or is it quicker to compound your way to $1 million? Well, let's do the numbers so we can figure it out. If you took $10,000 right now and you found a way to double your money, right, consistently, how many times, like how many steps of doubling your money do you need to take to reach over $1 million? Well, the answer is 7 steps. Let's do the math. 10,000 doubled once becomes 20,000. Doubling again becomes 40 grand, and then 80 grand, 160 grand, 320 grand, 640 grand, and on the 7th step, you've broken $1 million, $1.28 million, right? So you've just achieved $1 million in 7 steps of doubling your money. Now, obviously you're gonna ask me, but what doubles predictably and what can do that in such a short space of time? We'll talk about that soon, but it's understanding the concept here. Now, compare that with saving your way to $1 million. If you took the same $10,000 and saved $10,000, say every single month, it's still gonna take you 100 months of savings to hit your first million. And this is assuming that you don't spend your money on your really tempting nice car, that really nice, fashion bag, whatever it is, right? You have to discipline yourself to saving consistently to $1 million. It's still going to take a long time anyway. So clearly, compounding your way to $1 million is easier than saving your way to $1 million. And if you can do both at the same time, earn more income so that you have more savings to keep compounding over and over again, then you reach your million even faster. The point I'm trying to make in the first principle that I'm teaching you is that compounding your way to $1 million is so much more effective and predictable at getting $1 million than savings, right? Now, principle number 2, this is still in the theory part here, yeah? But the second principle, the second part of it is understanding what can you control when it comes to compounding your money that will help you reach $1 million even faster, right? If you looked at the equation I showed you before, 10,000 doubling all the way to $1 million, right? If you analyze that, you'll see that there's actually 3 variables you can control. The first variable is how much capital do you start with? If you look at that example just now, we used 10,000 and started with that to hit $1 million, right? What if you did 20,000 up front, right? If you had $20,000, instead of taking 7 steps to hit $1 million, you only need 6 steps of doubling your money to hit $1 million. You can do the math and confirm this yourself, right? If you doubled it again from 20 grand to 40 grand, you only need 5 steps to hit $1 million. If you doubled it again to $80,000, you only need 4 steps to hit $1 million. Does that make sense? So the more upfront money, the more capital you can put towards investing, even if you have to sort of do it routinely over a couple of months, the faster you'll hit $1 million. It takes less steps to hit $1 million. That's variable number 1. Variable number 2 is about the growth rate, the ROI. Like in the example I used before, we kept doubling your money, right? If you could get an investment or put it somewhere where instead of doubling your money per step, you actually 4x your money, well, then you basically halve the number of steps, right? And likewise, on the flip side, if you don't double your money, if you only add an extra 50%, then it's going to take you longer to hit your $1 million. So this second variable is all about picking the best performing asset. It's all about, do I put it in real estate? Do I put it in stocks? Do I put it in what? What do I put my money in that's going to double my step or have a higher ROI in the same number of time? Now, time is the third variable. How much time does it take to have another step? Does that make sense? In that previous example, I kept saying, how many steps do you need to take to double your way to $1 million, right? I said steps because steps doesn't mean years, right? I didn't say 7 years to double your money, to reach $1 million. I said 7 steps. Now, what if one step wasn't a year, but it was just 6 months? Or what if it was just 3 months? The shorter the amount of time it takes to reach one more step, the faster you get to $1 million. Does that make sense? These are the 3 variables that you can control and choose from to reach your $1 million even faster than before. So we've got the theory part out of the way. Now it's time to transition to the practical side. And when it comes to the practical side, there's really just 2 things you need to think about. The first is increasing your cash flow. Now we're going to talk about cash flow briefly towards the end of this video, but cash flow is all about generating more income, starting a new business, creating a new product, doing all these sorts of things to increase your income so you have more money to invest into. We will talk about cash flow in a lot more detail in a separate video to this because that is a big topic. And for that reason, I remind you to subscribe to this channel so that when we do publish that video, you can get a notification of that video being published. But that being said, because cash flow is a big topic, I'm leaving that to the end of this video and in a separate video in a more detailed way. The one I believe I'm going to focus on more and is more important in this video is about what asset do you invest into that can double your money much faster and more predictably than any other asset, right? So let's talk about that. When it comes to what asset class can you invest into that can reach $1 million, like double your money faster and more consistently, right? There's many to choose from. Do you choose real estate? Do you choose stocks? Do you choose bonds? What do you choose? Well, we know from the data that traditional assets are going up, but they're not really outperforming any one of the others, right? So we need to find a different asset class. And after analyzing all these different kinds of assets, we've identified 2 asset classes that we believe are far outperforming anything else. And what are they? Number 1 is investing in your own business, right? This is still the number 1 ROI for money, right? There is no other investment you can do where you can buy a $2,000 camera, record some content on it, publish it or sell it, and turn $2,000 into $1 million. Like, what else can do that? So investing in your own business is still the number 1 investment with the highest ROI, but it is an active form of investment. Does that make sense? And for that reason, we have to talk about that as a separate video altogether. Again, that's why you should subscribe. But that being said, is there a passive investment? Is there a passive asset that you can invest money into? Just leave it there and you know it's going to double a lot more faster than any other type of asset. And yes, there is. The answer, turns out, at the moment anyway, is Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as a asset class. Right. Now, I know that Bitcoin is still a topic that not everybody is warming up to yet. It is being adopted much faster now, but I just want to show you the number side of it, okay? Regarding the things like, is it safe to buy? Where do I buy it? Where do I store it? How do I make it so that people can't hack me? Let's talk about that separately if you're convinced by the numbers. Right? But I want to talk about the numbers first because that's going to show you why Bitcoin is probably the most predictable way to hit your $1 million in the fastest, shortest amount of time. There's actually a reason why I said in 4 years or less to make your first $1 million, and this is the reason why. Okay? So in order to explain this, I need to pull out a chart to show you the numbers, okay? So let's transition over to our laptop screen so I can show you this. So guys, I've got in front of me the price of Bitcoin plotted onto what we call a chart. The reason I'm gonna show you this is because a lot of people think that the price of Bitcoin is very random and perceived to be high risk. We don't know when it's gonna go up 10x and then down 90%, right? That's what a lot of people think. But if you know how to read what's on the chart, you'll find that the price of Bitcoin is actually very predictable, and you know when to buy low and when to sell high to maximize your profits. Now, if that's of interest to you, then let's dive straight in. What I have in front of me here is a price of Bitcoin. Today is the 17th of August, 2021. And you can see that the price of Bitcoin yesterday closed at $45,935. Now the question is this still a good time to buy Bitcoin? This isn't the future yet, so we don't even know where the top is unless you know what I'm about to show you. For me personally, if you check out my Twitter account, I'll put that on the screen somewhere. I've actually been buying, again, more Bitcoin at 32,500, and I bought some more at 36,000. And I'll tell you why I was confident enough to buy it at those prices. The projected top price for me is, let's hang on to that for a second. Let me show you first about the features of this chart, right? If we drag the time frame back, right, this is a chart that goes all the way back to 2010 when Bitcoin was first trading, right? And what you can see is that the general curve of Bitcoin is generally upwards trending, right? So it does go up and up and up and up. It's just that in the middle of going up, there are times where it goes up, down, up, down, up, down. Like these are big ups, big downs, and so forth, right? And when you look at these price drops versus these price gains, these can freak a lot of people out, right? So if you didn't know how to read this properly, you'd say, damn, this is really random. I don't know if this is gonna do another one of these coming up soon, right? But if you used a tool called an indicator, in this case, I'm using something called a logarithmic growth curve, right? And we're plotting this curve right here on the screen. You can see that the price of Bitcoin will generally do two things. It'll hover around in the blue zone, and then it'll shoot straight up to the top of the red zone before returning back down to the blue zone. This is what we call one cycle. Blue, red, blue. Okay, so this is the first cycle. The second cycle, it spends a lot of time in the blue area, shoots up to the red zone, the top of the red zone, and then returns back down to the blue zone. This is second cycle, and so forth and so forth. You can see blue, red, blue. Blue, it didn't spend enough time in the blue zone, so we knew this was a fake out, right? This is a fake move, right? Now this is enough time, so we know this is the true move up to the top of the red zone. Does that make sense, guys? Now, if you have this information and if you could decode this further, do you think you can use that information to make way more money out of Bitcoin? And we haven't even talked about the other ones like Ethereum and Theta, right? But just on this alone, can you kind of see how this information could help you maximize your profits? If we go back into what we can see here, right? Where are we now? Why did I want to buy at $32,500? Well, it's because I know that the top is up here somewhere at the top of the red zone. The second question is, when does it usually peak? What you'll find is that usually it peaks, the first time is the only exception. The first time it peaked in June 2011. The second time it peaked on 9th, what's that? Call it December 2013, the exact date. Let's just skip through that. 2nd of December. The third one was on the 18th, 11th of December. So again, December. And for me personally, I am projecting around about early December, maybe even mid to late November, right? That's where I project the Bitcoin prices to hit the top of the red zone. And knowing that information, we can actually plot it. If we know that it follows this curve and the top is somewhere here, so let's drag it to, see, I'm looking at the time here, right? This is December, right? Too far. Let's go around about there, right? 13th of December. We're looking at a top price of somewhere around 140,000 to 150,000. It's within that range. I know that the price of Bitcoin is going to peak at that price. It hasn't happened yet. This is still August 2021, but I'm willing to bet a lot of my net worth on this because of the patterns that are existing, right? Now, that being said, that's the reason why I was willing to buy a lot at 32,500 is because I'm aiming for the target at 150,000. Well, more likely 140,000. That being said, Do you have to sell it at exactly the top? No, you don't. You just have to sell it somewhere in the red zone, because as long as you sell in the red, you buy in the blue, you will definitely guaranteed make money off of Bitcoin, right? Again, I haven't even talked about the other cryptocurrencies yet. We'll save that for another day, right? But that being said, if you understand that, then yes, right now is a good time to triple your money in about 4 months' time, right? Again, this isn't financial advice, it's just me and my own personal opinion and observations, right? But that being said, how do you use this information to make your million within the next 4 years? Well, if you started now, which is, August 2021, you could triple your money first right now with whatever you got. Say 10 grand becomes 30 grand. And then on the next cycle, you're aiming to buy it at the blue zone to capture the next wave up to the next red zone, right? Let's calculate what those prices will be. If you look at these cycles here, you have the top in June 2011. When does it go to the blue zone? Well, it took until October 2011. So that's a very short space of time, maybe June, July, August, September, October. So 5-6 months roughly, right? That's how long it took the first time to go from red to blue. The second time it went from December 2013 to January 2015. So just over a year, right? Just over a year to get to the blue zone. The third time from December 2017 to, December 2018, it was almost exactly 1 year, right? And so we can kind of predict that the next time it's gonna go to the blue zone from the peak in December 2021 is gonna be around December 2022, right? Maybe January 22, maybe November 2022, we don't know. But it's gonna be somewhere there. And if we look at what the price is, it's roughly around $40,000, okay? So think about it. Right now, if you had $10,000, you could only buy a quarter of a Bitcoin, a little less than a quarter actually. It's almost a fifth of a Bitcoin, 0.2 something, right? By the time it goes to 150 grand, your 10 grand has become 30 grand. By the time it goes back down to 40 grand, and when I say 40, I say that as a range. It could be 40, it could be 50, whatever it is, right? But your 30 grand can now buy almost an entire Bitcoin. Does that make sense? Right? And so the next time, when's the next peak? Well, we know each cycle from blue to red to blue, blue to red to blue, it takes roughly once every 4 years. This is 2011, this is 2013. That's the only exception. 2013 to 2017, that's 4 years. 2017 to 2021, that's 4 years. It's probably gonna be around about December 2025. That's the next peak, right? So the next peak is here, December 2025, and the top of the red zone is $850,000, $900,000 plus minus. We don't know exactly what it will be until it's very close to the date, right? But calculate that for me. 40,000 into, call it let's round it up. Let's say $50,000 is when you buy it in the blue zone, and it goes to 850,000, right? You don't need to get the exact extremes. That's still a 17x on your money. Does that make sense? So your 30 grand times 17, that's, what's that, $500,000? Even more, whatever it is, it's close to $500,000, right? Off of an initial $10,000. And you're doing that in just 4 years. Does that make sense to you guys, right? And so can you use this information now to much more easily help you achieve your million, achieve your financial freedom? What if instead of starting with 10 grand, you started with 50 grand? What if instead of 50 grand, you started with 100 grand? Right? You can kind of see how things start to compound easier from here, right? Now that's the golden secret, and we're only using Bitcoin here. There's actually even better opportunities in other markets, right? In the cryptocurrency world. It's just that it is a deeper level of complexity to get that deep in, and I don't want to get too far in when this is probably your first time seeing something like this as well, right? So we'll talk about that maybe another day. But there are some other special features for you to keep in mind, okay? The first is this, right? If we're looking at what's happening right now in August, it's actually repeating pretty much the same thing as in 2013. 2013 hit the bottom of the red zone right here, and then it crashed down, almost touching the blue zone. And this was from, what's that, $268 all the way down to $51. So that's like, whatever that is, 70% decrease, whatever that happens to be, right? It did something similar here from $65,000 plus minus. It dropped all the way to just under 30 grand. It more than halved its price. And a lot of people freaked out here. I wasn't, because I knew it was repeating the same thing in 2013, right? So the cycles tend to repeat themselves. That's key point number one. Number two, you'll notice that on every cycle, right, the return on investment keeps decreasing. What do I mean by this? If you look at the first cycle, the lowest price it went to was 1 cent per Bitcoin. And it rocketed all the way to $32 in that first cycle. Now, pull out a calculator for me. That's a 3,200x increase. That's 3,200 times your money on the first cycle. The second cycle, if you manage to buy at the bottom, which is about $2, it went all the way to $1,200, just a little bit under, right? So that's a 600 increase on your money on the second cycle. The third cycle, it went as low as around about $200, right? And then it peaked at $20,000. So that's a, what's that, $100 increase, 100x increase, right? And on this current cycle, the low was just under $4,000. And it's gonna peak at about 140,000, which is, if you calculate that, it's just under 40x. It's like 30 something x, 35x. Right? Video editor, please put the exact numbers on the screen, right? But what you can see is that on each cycle, the return on investment is getting less and less, which means the longer it takes for you to realize this and start, the harder it is for you to make your million. The more you delay taking action, the longer it takes for you to get your million. The longer it takes for you to figure out how to get the cash flow and income to buy and invest in things like cryptocurrency, the longer it's gonna take you to make your million. It gets harder the longer you wait. The earlier you start, the easier it is for you. Does that make sense? Right now, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general is the #1 asset class, other than your own business, that can outperform pretty much every other asset class, right? In the future, that might change. It might go into NFTs. It might go into, game finance or whatever it might be in the future, virtual reality, right? But right now, that's what it is, okay? Going back to the chart here, there's another surprising feature that not a lot of people know. Every time a cycle makes an all-time high, so this was $32, and then on the next cycle, price breaks the last all-time high, which is 32 here. Once it breaks that price, it never goes below the last all-time high ever again. Ever, right? It happened here the first time, and you can see price never went back down. It happened here the second time. Once it broke, which was here somewhere, it never returned back down. 20,000 here, it broke here. And I'm willing to bet everything on the fact that it'll never go below $20,000. That is why I was so willing to buy at $32,000, because I knew the very worst thing it could do is just drop another 30%, right? And if you compare a 30% drop versus a 5x gain from 30 grand to 150 grand, I mean, that's a no-brainer deal. Does that make sense? Right? So knowing this information, do you think you can use this now to very easily help you become a millionaire? There's only one question left, right? How do you get the money to buy this? You get what I mean? It means you need to start focusing on cash flow, which leads us in to the next topic. So we've covered off on the asset side of things, like what asset can you invest in to double your money faster. Now it's all about getting more cash flow, more disposable income, so that you can buy more assets, to invest in more assets, right? And this is all about, well, what can you do starting from right now to increase your net income? That's the key word, is net income. And there's actually 4 key steps. Right? The first one is increasing your cash flow, your income. So this is all about learning to start businesses, learning to create products, learning to sell online, selling digitally, learning to automate your processes so you can scale your business bigger. It's all about adding more skills so that you can use those skills to create a business, create a system that generates more cash flow. That's the best way to earn income to then start investing with, right? Now, on that topic, this is a big topic, which means that we have to cover it with more time. We've actually created a free web class for you that shows you a very detailed method of generating more cash flow on a recurring basis. There's probably a link for that below this video that you can click to access that web class right now. But that's step one, right? It's increasing your cash flow. Step number two is about reducing your expenses. Again, this is an obvious and basic one. Drink Starbucks less often, make more coffee at home, right? Reduce your overall expenses. And if you do get more income, resist the temptation to buy a fancy car, resist the temptation to buy a fancy bag or a luxury bag, right? The more income you have and the lower your expenses, the higher your net income to invest with, right? So naturally, that should be step number two. Step number three is all about reducing your debt, okay? If you have, and when I say debt, I mean bad debt. If you have debts where you have to pay for them out of your pocket, they're not earning you a net income, then that's a form of bad debt. So your car loans, your credit card bills that you use to shop with, right? The mortgage on the house that you live in, it's not earning you any rent. You're paying for it from your pocket. These are all types of debt that you should be aiming to reduce and or reducing the monthly payments on. Okay, so it means if you have expensive credit cards at high interest rates, can you refinance them into your mortgage at a lower interest rate? Is that possible? That's going to reduce your interest payments, right? Or is it possible to pay interest only instead of principal and interest for a period of time so that you can put more net income towards your investments, right? It's these sorts of questions that's going to help you reduce your debt or reduce the payments so you have more net income to invest with. Finally, the fourth step to increasing your net income and cash flow is to reduce your taxes legally. I can't tell you how to do that for obvious reasons. I'm not licensed to and I'm not allowed to. But if you can reduce your tax legally, right, or minimize them, then you have more net income to invest with, right? I can't tell you how to do that, but you should be looking at how to do it, researching it, so that you can do that for yourself. Okay, doing those four things will increase your net income, your net cash flow, and gives you more money to play with, more money to invest with. And that's going to help you reach your million that much faster. So those are the two main parts of the practical side of using this blueprint so that you can reach your million within 4 years. Hopefully what I've shown you has been useful and valuable to you. And in order for me to help you even more, I actually want to show you in even more detail how to do things like increase your cash flow, how to generate monthly recurring income and things like that. We've actually created a free web class where we show you how to generate monthly recurring income. It's all about focusing on two things: generating more cash flow so that you have more net income to then put towards investing. Investing in what? Your own business and of course, cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. Always buy in the blue zone. If you're watching this in 2021 before the peak, right, then you can probably still buy and get maybe 2x or 3x. But even if you miss 2021, you can buy again in late 2022, late or early 2023, when Bitcoin hits that $40,000, $50,000 blue zone range, right? Now, that being said, I hope you enjoyed this content. If you do, then you can help our channel out by doing a few things. Number one, leaving a comment on this video with ideas or questions that you want us to answer in our next content video, right? And the other thing is to share this video with family and friends that you think are going to find this content really valuable for them and really life-changing for them. And then of course, you can also like this video and subscribe and press the bell notification so that it helps YouTube's algorithms pick up this video and share it to more people, and so that you get notified for our next content upload. So guys, it's been a pleasure for me to share this information with you. Stay safe and let's become more successful together. We'll see you guys in our next video.